go. Welcome to episode 2 of the Hard Luck Outdoorsman. I'll be your host yet again, Cody Tart.
And I'll be your other host, Eric Olson.
We hope you guys enjoyed our first episode. Eric just introduced me to the fact that our audio was not great on the first one, so we've made a few changes. Hopefully this episode is a little less broken sounding.
Yeah, we adjusted the EQ. We adjusted maybe the noise gate, whatever those things are. You know,
Yeah.
Audio guy, you can jump in there in the comments and tell us we're doing it all wrong. But it sounds all right to us, so you have to let us know.
We hope it sounds all right. We won't know till the final edit, but either way, we appreciate you guys tuning in after our first disaster class that we rolled out. But no, we had a good time recording. Hope you guys enjoyed listening, and looking forward to continuing this.
Absolutely, yeah. We got episode 2 rolling right now. We're gonna probably, as any video we're probably gonna do, we're gonna just cover many topics, but we're gonna try to start out with off season, what we do in the off season, scouting wise. I guess we'll talk mainly about deer, right?
Yeah, I think primarily deer. We may touch on a little bit turkey wise, and then maybe even some kind of off season prep for next season, kind of what our off season looks like, I think.
Tracking in there too.
Yeah, let's throw in a little bit of tracking with the dogs. We've got some big plans for late March that we're going to touch on, so we'll kind of, hit on that and kind of how we're preparing for that, and then I think that'll about wrap us up for today. What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you covered it all. March is a very busy season for us. More getting ready for those turkeys gobbling their heads off. The spawn for bass fishing is going to be going.
Oh yeah.
And little tidbit there, about the tracking, maybe the certification here or there.
Sure.
And we just got done laying a track in the backyard for shadow.
Yeah. Let's talk about that as well. Speaking of turkeys, it was funny, in the duck swamp this morning, we actually had turkeys gobbling to us. I was giving them an owl hoot.
Really?
Yeah, we were listening to them gobble over the swamp. It was pretty cool.
Why don't you give us an owl hoot? Start off.
I don't know if this is a great option with the amount of audio issues we're having.
We don't want to make the listeners' ears bleed.
Yeah, exactly. But
nice guy over here.
Yeah, but come turkey season, I'm sure that I'll have a clip from a turkey hunt, and it'll have an owl hoot in there. I can guarantee that.
That's awesome. Yeah, behind the house even they were talking.
Really?
Yeah, I got a video. I think I threw it on the old Instagram, but man, they're just back there talking. It sounded like a hen cutting back there.
Yeah.
So I gave it the old.
Gave her a little talk back, huh?
Sure enough, my calling, you just heard it there, it's terrible. Right back.
Really?
Probably didn't hear me. They probably just kept going and doing
Kept right on talking themselves, yeah?
Yeah, but I think this cold weather, they're just fired up for some reason.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm fired up about the cold weather. I love it. It's just, man, we have struggled with the ducks this year.
Yeah. I mean, that one hole that you took Jimmy and I to, they're lighting up that camera.
Wow, I know. It's so frustrating. Didn't hunt 200 yards from there this morning.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just born on the X. Ducks want to be elsewhere.
Man, you could have had, 6 black ducks?
Yeah, I think the limit's 2 a person, but
We'll get you a black birthday duck. Right? That's what we're doing, 31st.
Yeah, my birthday happens to fall on the last day of duck season every year. Duck season wraps up January 31st, and obviously that's my birthday as well.
That's
so
right.
Turning 24 this year.
24, wow, I didn't know you were younger than me. 2 grades above me, this guy's smart.
No, I'll be turning 28, really starting to age out. But no, let's jump in on a little bit of off-season scouting. I know that's kind of, come January, I piddle with the ducks, something I've gotten into over the last 4 or 5 years, but obviously my heart still lays with the deer and the turkey, and January is a great time to be scouting for deer for next year because you're catching a lot of that late season sign that they were laying down, getting an idea of their late season patterns. What do you kind of find hitting some of that January scouting?
Yeah, so like you said, it's that late season movement. Mostly what I found is scrapes. That can be community scrapes, you know, the size of a car hood, or just one solitary one under a small little pine or holly tree or whatever. But it tells you a lot, and I won't take credit for all of it because obviously, like we talked in the first episode, we watched these guys like Dan Enfold. He's like, that's what he spends most of his time doing.
Yeah.
Especially for public land hunters.
Oh yeah.
You gotta get away from the sign, and you gotta go way back there, and that's usually where you find the most sign, or the hardest spots to get to, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, just great time to be out there looking for sign. Tracks obviously are always there. You find rubs. I mean, they won't be usually really fresh because they're not as fired up as mid-November.
Right.
Right. But yeah, it's definitely a good time. I know we've gone out in some crappy stuff like marshes for public land and around this time. And you've hung a couple cameras you're going to leave out there the whole off season.
Yep,
right?
yep. We're planning to run cameras all off season. Just to kind of get an idea, I want to see the antler growth progression this year.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then just kind of see how deer operate when there's absolutely zero pressure.
Right.
One thing I found this year at the hunting club is, man, by December we just weren't seeing deer. Didn't matter corn pile or not, big bean fields. We just really were not seeing deer by end of November, 1st of December. And man, the pressure just wears them out, even on private land where you can bait. And you know, we had a biggest doe competition for the month of December, just trying to help level out the population and everything. And nobody could even kill does. It was the craziest thing. And you know, I started doing a little bit of scouting here at the beginning of duck season, into December as well, just walking, and it was crazy. I was finding deer on their feet at lunchtime, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They were way back. I'm talking, when you start getting away from where all the pressure has been, because we had a cold December, we've had a really cold January, but man, once you get away from all that pressure, those deer are on their feet. They're having to eat to survive.
Exactly, they gotta eat. Whether they're
And
really like,
yeah, and what we forget a lot of times, I think, at hunting clubs or private land where you can bait, those deer are not near as reliant on corn piles as we think. That's like candy to them.
right.
It really doesn't provide a lot of nutrients for them. I believe, from what I understand, it's mostly just carbohydrates. So it's not really giving that much value. They're feeding on so much more. I mean, you and I were doing a little walking the other day, and you know, you were pointing out browse where they're eating off stem count and stuff.
Right.
Just natural browse, and that's where they're getting their nutrients. They're so not reliant on what we're putting out.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's like exactly like spot on. Is corn and obviously acorns from white oaks is what they like desire. Like that's their number one. If it's on the ground, they're gonna go to it. But they don't technically need it to survive.
Yeah.
So like what you just said, browse. I mean, they'll eat briars, things you would never think.
That greenbrier is a huge one for them.
Right. That's critical for their digestion, apparently, which is insane to me. But if you think about it, it's just like it looks like a friggin' piece of cabbage that we eat, right? That's for digestion. Yeah. So it kind of makes sense. But yeah, it's like you said, you gotta, the more knowledge you have and what these deer eat and where they like to bed, you know, right? You get into pines and hardwood transitions. They love it because they can walk it, and usually pines are bedded in there.
Yeah.
If their hardwoods is right there, all they gotta do is take one step out of there, and they're good. And a lot of public spots I know is there's hardwoods and pines on that transition, and the hardwoods right on the edge is not public.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they have that, like you say, you don't see them, they have that sixth sense.
Yep, they know.
Right?
And it's funny you mentioned the transitions, in college. I think I touched last episode on when I started hunting public land.
Yeah.
I saw essentially no deer my first year. I had one sit where I saw deer. And that off season, I spent a ton of time researching and watching videos of these guys on public land that were getting it done, making success stories. And I switched up my strategy pretty drastically and hunted almost primarily transitions from pine to hardwood, hard transition lines that were minimum a half-mile walk-in.
Mm-hmm.
And it totally transformed my deer sightings. I mean, it went from seeing deer one time and across an entire season, I think I had 18 hunts, to that second year I was seeing deer 50% of my sits.
Mm-hmm.
Now I didn't see any giants, nothing mature, but even then I was learning a lot about how to use my wind and everything else, but it was just getting on those transition lines, and it was crazy seeing deer they would come out of thick pine, the bedding, and they would walk on the transition, or they would come out, they would feed a little bit, then they would go back, and I would watch them bed right back on that line. It was, I guess that's just how they feel safe and how they operate. I guess it's like a natural funnel highway type deal.
Exactly.
But like you said, it's just crazy how they use those transitions and stuff.
I mean, they use those transitions for everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, I'll admit, when I first got into it, I heard the pines and the hardwood transition, I was always thinking like, all right, they must be running that during the rut, which they do.
Yeah.
But there's like this one specific public spot I've had quite a bit of luck on. I haven't killed any giants or anything.
Right.
But like you said, as far as finding the deer, they're there.
Yeah.
And I mean, the whole season, if you just hug that bedding, you're bound to get a shot or at least see one.
Oh yeah.
And I've taken my buddy Nick out there. He's new to hunting. I mean, it's been like his 4th year, but he doesn't get to go much, so he stays new.
Yeah.
And you take guys all the time, so
Yeah.
you know how that goes.
Yeah.
But it's a great tool to have in your bag for sure, knowing that transition.
Yeah.
And I mean, during the rut, I was actually looking at this SD card on that camera, and this spot had like a really nice buck go through there, and I totally forgot that I had that encounter, but it was right on that line. So we'll literally just stack that transition.
Well, I think that plays into a really good point is during the rut, those transitions are so critical. I think over the last 3 or 4 years, a lot of my successful rut sits have been finding that thick pine that's holding large amounts of deer in general, but generally large doe bedding groups. And when the wind is coming out of it, getting 30 or 40 yards off of that bedding line, and almost every time you'll see a buck cruise that line trying to win that bedding area.
Exactly.
And it's just crazy. I think multiple times over the last 3 or 4 years, that has become my new rut strategy.
Right.
Is getting on those transitions, wind in my face, coming straight out of the bedding. And I'd say it's probably a 75% rate, especially early rut, before all the does are in estrus, when the bucks are really moving and searching.
Yeah.
I'd say it's pretty consistent. I'll see bucks of some sort working that edge.
Yeah. And it's almost like you can play their game as well.
Yeah.
If you, I don't know if everybody, I know I use doe urine. So you can almost simulate a hot doe there.
Yeah.
It's bedding, the deer know, the bucks know that there's does in there. You throw that right on the edge of bedding, you got a 20-yard chip shot with your bow.
Yeah.
But it's definitely so true. And I mean, if you just have that tool in your bag, you're gonna definitely see deer and have a lot better success. But
absolutely.
But I mean, that goes back to, we can talk all about the rut. I mean, you probably saw me over here. I'm like biting my nails. I'm all fired up.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And when does the season start? September?
Yeah, September. We got a ways to go. But it all ties into kind of, this is a great time to get on those transitions and find the ones that are hot, where the bucks have been working them.
Right.
Those rubs and scrapes from November, you can still see a bit of them on the ground.
Yep.
And especially, here in North Carolina, they're rutting all the way through December, especially on those young does. And you're still finding that rut sign even now into early January. It's a critical time to get in the woods, spend some time walking, and find those lines, those funnels that the bucks are using to find those does.
Right. Yeah. Those rub lines are critical of going back to their bed, especially.
Absolutely.
And that leads into for scouting wise, you want to go look for those beds.
Yep.
And over the years, we figured out what's different does and buck beds. What's the difference between them? And usually, it's multiple beds together. If they're does, they all like to watch each other's backs, right? You almost got impaled there by your buck. All the YouTube. You saw that.
Saw that shift around.
He's all right. Don't worry.
No worries here.
But anyways, you find that the doe beds. I mean, you can have up to 6 beds. Just depends on the group, and then you get a buck, and usually they got a little. It doesn't have to be a big tree. One they can rub, and they usually rub it just to mark their territory. It's just usually one bed. But the thing that stands out so much to a buck bed is usually it'll be in a very strategic spot.
Yeah.
If that's a mature buck.
Oh yeah.
Right? They can see everything. If they can't see everything, they can get them from downwind.
Yeah.
And it's just insane if you think about how smart a whitetail is.
Just their instinctual intelligence is pretty incredible. I agree.
But you find those beds, you find the late season scrapes, like you were saying. The secondary rut in North Carolina might just be as good as the first rut.
Oh, it definitely can be.
Because my dad, I know he's killed a couple late season. I can't think off the top of my head if I've killed many good ones late season. But yeah, man. I mean, secondary rut.
It'll get them going. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to touch on off-season scouting wise, a lot of times summertime. We get into summer and we start glassing deer, watching them, and what would you say, 9 times out of 10 you'll locate a really nice buck July, early August. What do they do every time?
Disappear.
They disappear. And what I've been finding over the last several years, I'm not sure why this is. So I've been doing some research, and from what I understand, mature bucks particularly will breed the same does year after year. Just like humans, we, obviously want to be with attractive folks from the other sex. And from what I understand, deer a lot of times the same way. And so what I've found over the last few years is that we'll locate these bucks in July, August, they disappear. That first week in November, as soon as those first does come into estrus, they show back up. And my theory here, could be wrong, probably am wrong, but my theory is that they're bedding all summer. Their summer is spent with the does that they are breeding, their does. And I'm not sure why that is, but my theory, with no scientific backing, is that they're almost wanting to make sure that their genetic bloodline is being passed down. It's like they want to see the fawn survival rate with their does, or what fawns are coming out with issues. And then they'll disappear, they'll go on their bachelor party, they'll go hang out with the other bucks. You'll see them in their big buck groups during September, early October. They start getting a little territorial in October, and then almost without fail over the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years that I've been tracking it a lot closer, they show back up that first week in November. Almost every time. Doesn't matter the weather, doesn't matter anything. They're coming back between November 2nd and November 10th. Every time.
So when we're scouting them, they're scouting their does.
Yeah.
They come back.
That's what it seems like. Like the does that they pick during the summer are the ones they come back to in the fall.
Hey, I hope your theory is right, because we like really symmetrical deer. And if he's willing to give the genetics to all those does,
hey,
perfect.
That's just been what I've found over the last few years. Now, I will say it tends to hold more with, I'd say, 3.5-year-old and older bucks.
Yeah.
The older age class deer. Because the younger ones seem to just roam all rut.
It's like us growing up.
But,
right?
Yeah, exactly. But like,
They're
the
just
mature
dumb.
bucks, they almost settle down. And what I found, at least in my experience, is that they don't chase that far and wide.
Right.
They chase their core does.
Core area.
Yeah.
That's right.
They almost roam more in that October time frame as they establish territory and stuff.
Exactly.
And then, to me, late November, they get back to roaming, getting those last few does, or maybe even they've bred all their does and they go to find new does for the next year.
Right.
Not sure if that's the case, but in my experience, that's been it. So off-season scouting, if I'm finding those mature deer in the summertime, I'm not hunting it all September and October and blowing all their does out. I'm holding it till that first week in November. Even if he hasn't come back yet, that's where I'm going to be that first week.
That's right. No, it all correlates to that.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's the summer or like right now, mature deer, they have that core area.
Yeah.
And if, like you said, if you go in there and you bust the whole group out, who knows where that deer's going to be. And I mean, you can get just as lucky and have another buck come in from the next county.
Exactly.
But if you're wanting to have all your cards on your side, that's definitely the way to go.
Yeah. And granted, if you're on public land or anything like that,
yeah,
I mean, even me at a club, anyone can go in there and hunt it.
Right.
But if I can find something that's in tight, mature deer, it doesn't matter if you're on public or private, they're going to operate differently.
Right.
Me and another guy at the hunting club, we classify them as survival class of deer. We've seen them in duck season, and they're hard to find during deer season, but just really mature deer, we call them the survivalists because they don't operate like the rest of the deer herd.
Right.
They're solitary. Very rarely do we see them with buck groups, even in September and October out in the fields. They ain't out there.
Exactly.
Their sole purpose is to survive and breed.
Yep, exactly. They know what they're doing. They live this long, so they got a couple tricks up their sleeves for sure.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it all ties together, and it makes your season that much better of a chance of getting a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we touched on most everything. I mean, we could get all into our rut tactics and all that with the transitions, but
got to save some of it. But
that's right.
I feel like we hit enough to tie into how we structure our off-season scouting without getting into too much detail.
Right.
As we go on more scouting missions, maybe we can talk more about it, and then maybe some off-season prep as well. When do you start scouting for turkeys yourself?
I'm not as hardcore with turkeys as you are, but I mean, man, I don't know. Maybe a month before.
Yeah, that's about all.
I'll see if they're roosting where they're roosting at. Give a little owl hoot.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll like it. Maybe they won't. But no, I mean, I don't really know my plans for this turkey season. I might try to get behind the house.
Yeah.
I gotta talk to the neighbors to see if I can shoot the 20 gauge back there, because I tried to do it with the compound last year. I live in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't know, but it backs up to woods, and it's actually a story we'll tell later on about that 8-pointer that you and Eller helped me find.
Yep.
Right back there. But no, usually just a month before I'll go scout. We've done it before with I think Josiah went a couple of times.
Yeah.
Not the turtle that was deer, which I guess we can segue into if we want to tell that story later on.
Maybe we should get him on for like the new hunter.
We gotta
have him on as a guest to talk about getting new hunters into the sport.
Yeah.
And we can have him tell that as his hard luck story.
All right, yeah, we'll hold off for Jordan. Okay. I feel like that's right.
Yeah, I think that's only fair. But no, I'm with you. About a month before turkey season is when I'll start scouting. And
what kind of sign are you looking for? Like dust bowls, or is that too early?
I'll do. You'll start seeing it a little bit in March, I think. But really I'm just looking for birds,
Yeah.
poop, stuff like that. Because in the winter they get so flocked up, they shift their patterns. They'll move to completely different areas come spring.
Right.
So I'm gonna wait till it gets hot enough. I'll start looking for strutting birds, strut patterns. But really, to me, the biggest time to scout turkeys is when you're hunting turkeys.
Right.
It's one of those I don't scout a lot. Even on public land, I don't scout a ton. I'll just kind of, and I hunt a little differently than some folks. To me, the joy of killing a turkey is a talking turkey. I want to find one that's going to gobble to me. So.
Oh, I know it. This guy will get out 2 pot calls and do it at the same time. It's insane.
Yeah, I'll go pretty nuts, and I've gotten where I'm pretty much fully on the diaphragm, except for when I'm running 2 strikers on a pot call or something like that. But I know this past year had a lot of fun. I only hunted 3 times. Yeah, 3 times this year. I had a baby in May, so my wife was really pregnant, so I didn't hunt much. But I mean, in my 3 sits, I probably walked close to 20 miles, but I had a blast. I missed one opening day. Hard luck. I was in a tournament too and missed one opening day.
What tournament was that?
The Rich Square Turkey Tournament. So
Wow.
missed one opening day that could have, given me a chance in the tournament. Killed one the second day of season, which is just a crazy story I'll tell closer to turkey season when we start really talking turkeys.
That one.
And then brought my dad out one day, and he and I had a blast. We just could not get him to pull the trigger on one. But we'll definitely be trying next time we go out.
Okay.
Ready? Yeah. Alright. So, continuing on.
That's great. Well, with anything when we're talking about hunting or fishing, memories flood back.
Yeah.
So
We got some stories for some upcoming podcasts.
that's right.
I was talking to my brother about getting him on for a podcast in March, about the time we start really gearing up for turkey season. He took an old beater van and turned it into a camper van.
Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter did. And he's actually been traveling multiple states for the last 2 or 3 years turkey hunting.
Man, I did not know that.
Yeah, but he's got some pretty crazy, because all of it's been public land. So he's got some pretty crazy public land stories.
That is sweet.
Sneak preview, West Virginia. I'll just say there was somebody riding around on a 4-wheeler trying to shoot turkeys with a rifle from hundreds of yards away.
I guess that's legal there.
No, it's not legal.
With the rifle, it's not?
No, it's not legal.
Some states it's legal to shoot with a rifle.
Yeah, not West Virginia.
That pretty much makes sense, West
Yeah.
Virginia. No offense to any of our West Virginia
Yeah, audience,
audience,
but I won't tell the
that is-
story. I'm gonna wait till we can get Hunter on.
that is really
But
neat.
he's got some good hard luck stories
Oh, I'm sure.
from public land out of state to tell us.
I don't want to spoil any of the stories, but his van doesn't break down, does it?
His van's not great, but I don't think he's had any major breakdowns.
Okay, that's a win. Right?
Yeah, that's a win. But
That's
but
awesome.
you want to try and touch on a little bit of the tracking, kind of our off-season program with the 2 dogs.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly ran by you because you've been doing this for about 3 or 4 years. But man, I don't know how long I've had Shadow since August. It's January now. I guess we started tracking about a month ago. So it hasn't been. It's kind of a small sample size, but man,
Yeah.
even in that sample size, I've told Cody probably 3 times now. I see why you do it, and we haven't even found a deer yet.
Yeah, it's a blast.
It's it's so much fun, and I feel like you can have a ball with your dog on the couch. I'm not saying you can't, but whenever you're like out in the woods,
There's a
finding deer,
special bond
exactly.
that takes place between you and your dog when you hunt with them. I'd say 80 or 90% of the people I track for.
Yeah.
Uller, my dog, will go through the gates of hell to find your deer. And I'm going to follow him all the way to that gate and drag him out.
Yeah.
and I wouldn't trade a minute of it.
That's sweet.
I mean, it's a
right there.
blast. But just the stuff we go through. I mean, I've got stories from this year of breaking through ice, being up to my waist. You know, pretty much going swimming, following that dog. Nasty briar thickets. I came out multiple times, and my arms. I mean, my hands still have scars all over them. My arms were just torn up.
Battle scars, yeah.
Yeah, just. I mean, Uller had one run-in with a deer. Well, he had a couple run-ins with deer, but he had one run-in with a deer where he got his neck cut wide open by deer hooves being stomped on. He had a couple run-ins with barbed wire that ripped him open. He just continues right on.
Yeah, and I think that, not to get too off of the tracking part, but
yeah.
I think that really ties into why we hunt, right? And anytime you hit a deer, even if you hit it in the friggin' tail, right?
Yep.
Or you're going to want to give your 100% effort and then some to find that deer. And I mean, that's just like, that's great. That's how trackers should be.
Yeah, I think it's definitely how it should be. I try and tell everybody the reason I'm doing it is because the biggest deer I ever shot with a bow got away, and I know I killed it. Right. 100% certainty. The deer was dead. I couldn't find it. I knew nothing about dog trackers at the time, didn't know about thermal drone recovery. It was just me trying to find the deer, and I couldn't do it.
Right.
And that off season, I did a ton of research. I tried to figure out how to not experience that again. Came across dog tracking, got really into it. Watched a bunch of Shane Simpson videos, Callie's Chronicles. He has a dog, Callie, and he does some really well done videos of tracking.
Is that the lab? Or
no,
mixed up?
I can't remember what breed of dog that is. It's like a blue heeler or something.
Okay.
Beautiful dog, but they do a really good job on the videos showing like projected shot angles on like a 3D graph and everything. Y'all should check it out if you're interested, but either way, so you're getting rolling with Shadow. She's doing a fantastic job. I got to see her work today for the first time. You want to tell us a little bit about her track today?
Yeah, so we're over here tonight, we're eating dinner, and then we decided to do the podcast after. But before all that, we had to get a track in.
That's right.
And it was the first time with a deer leg. So I did a couple, probably 2 or 3 blind tracks with a deer liver that I harvested in the fall. I heard it was really sweet to a puppy and would get their attention, so I was like, let's give it a shot. But apparently, after a certain time, they'll get bored with it. So I was like, all right, that makes perfect sense. So we decided to do the leg today. And I was kind of skeptical because, you know, she's never got anything that doesn't have a whole bunch of blood on it. But man, whenever you introduced her to it, she wouldn't let go of it. She was gnawing at it. But anyways, we got her on there, first blood. And I have no idea. This is my first time not laying the track.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, I learned a lot and Shadow learned a lot too. So
yeah, I'm gonna quick interject if you don't mind. No, I think that's the biggest challenge of training your dog is it's hard to learn your dog and learn their cues and also give them a chance to learn and fail when you're laying all your own tracks because you know where it is. So it's hard to let them go on a wild hare if you know they're going wrong, whereas if you don't know, you're forced to learn your dog and trust your dog, but you pick up so much more on their cues of, is my dog tracking? Is my dog just wandering around?
It's realistic.
Yeah,
That's how it happens,
is.
Right? With
Exactly.
You don't know where they're at. And it's almost like if you pair up with a buddy like what Cody and I are doing, it's almost like we help each other that way. So if I go lay the track, you don't know.
Yep.
Right? We can do that each way. But no, that's definitely, I learned a ton.
Yeah, but continue on. Sorry, I just wanted to interject that point.
Oh, you're good. You're the expert. You gotta tell everybody what's really going on.
I'm far from an expert, but I would like to get one on the podcast at some point if you're up for it and do like a full tracking episode, bring on somebody with like 20, 30 years experience.
Oh yeah. I know you know some guys. You call them all
I've
the
got
time.
some guys that I could get a hold of that
Yeah.
have been my tracking mentors, and man, they've been fantastic, and just the wealth of knowledge they have.
No, that'd be awesome.
But either way, continue on Shadow's track today.
Maybe. No, that's okay. Well, I need to just touch on that.
Yeah.
Maybe have the dogs on there. Maybe they can say what they think.
I don't know. Uller, he supposedly speaks on demand if I tell him speak, but lately he's been a little foolhardy, so
Yeah,
no guarantee.
Shadow doesn't want to get along with anybody, so it'd probably be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we started on First Blood, and she started pretty good.
Really strong start, yeah.
And you picked up on it. I didn't pick up on it because this is the first time again not knowing where the leg is in this case. And she kept going, and apparently she stopped. And there's this little berm that you cross over with trees on either side. And she was kind of skeptical of it, almost afraid to cross over there. So we started her back on First Blood, and you helped me out a little bit with saying, all right, I basically just pointed to where that last blood is, and then she just didn't want to go over there, and I was like, all right. So I don't know why I'm doing this, but they can maybe see it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got her to cross that berm, and once she got on the other side, she had her nose to the ground the whole time.
Yeah.
And went right to it. Chewed on the leg, let her chew on it for a while.
She was fired up.
Later.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that you mentioned is a lot of praise for these dogs.
A lot of praise, especially at this young age, kind of the big beginner stage. You don't want it to be high pressure, high stakes. You want it to be fun. You want it to be something they enjoy, they get excited to do. And I think you did a great job of that. Even when, so essentially the track I laid, primarily straight line, but it had just the slightest turn to cross that little tree line and berm, and then continue on straight, just to throw a little something in it. I wanted to see how she would react. I've never seen her track before, and then also see how Eric handled it, and they both did just absolutely fantastic.
Well, thank you.
But I think that was a really good thing that you did, is when she is getting off, she went all the way to where it crossed the berm, and it was like, she's a little bit more of a, I don't want to say skittish, but a little more wary dog. Exactly. She's very wary, and she didn't want to cross, and she would find something else to sniff on in her mind, the safe side,
right.
What she knew. And
she can see, right?
Yeah, but it's so easy to get frustrated, and the dog can feel that frustration coming off of you, and then it makes them nervous. It can really throw everything off. But you did a great job kind of keeping your cool. When she did the same thing again, once we were able to pick up on the cue of, hey, she knows it crosses right here, but she's scared to go over there. No frustration. You just gave her that little bit of encouragement, and as soon as you started walking that direction, she took the lead again, went right through.
She did, yeah.
And then as soon as she got across, she didn't take 2 steps off the line. She just went straight down it, nose to the ground, all the way to the end. And I think that was really good, and a good example of how to handle a young dog, of no frustration, no, edginess to it. Just enjoy the experience, let them enjoy it, work with them, and they're going to grow through all those experiences as well.
And it's like you said, do you agree, whenever the dog gets off of it, even though I had no idea, just let her to figure it out, right? Yeah. And then I guess you can even learn from that as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely. I think that was, in my tracking experience, that was my biggest challenge with Uller, was just learning when is he off of it, when is he on it, and his tells. And it's still, Uller's so gamey, he'll chase anything alive. But a lot of times if he's off of it, he'll put his head up in the air and he'll just start zigzagging. Or he'll be doing these huge circles trying to pick back up on it. Whereas when he's on it, a lot of times sometimes he'll have his head up, he'll air scent as much as he can, but his nose is pretty on the ground, and his tail is straight up, but it's not wagging a ton. He's just, you can see the focus. And then when he's off of it, it's almost like he goes into almost like a panic mode of like, oh crap, I gotta find it. And he'll be all over the place.
Right.
And, you know, I think a good example is the deer you shot when we tracked it. You know, and that day I did a little bit of off lead. Technically I know that's illegal in the state of North Carolina, but for sake of time and everything that evening, that's what we did. And when he was off of it, around that creek bottom where we stood for forever,
yeah,
you know, you saw kind of the panicked look in him, and he was over here, over here, over here, cross the creek, cross it back, cross the creek, cross it back, all over the place, trying to figure it out. And, you know, I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. How did he get so thrown off? How is he so stressed about it? And, you know, that deer worked that ridge top, and late evening, what are the thermals doing? They're pulling straight down to the creek. So he's following the thermal trail, gets down that bottom, it's probably a scent cloud down there. He can't figure out, he's all over the place.
Yeah.
Took a couple restarts, and, you know, once again, me being me, he finally took just a straight line. He went down a little ditch, back up, and took this ridge top all the way down and around, straight line, and he stopped in a creek bottom. And about the time I started walking that way thinking he'd found the deer, because normally he'll stop on the deer and he won't leave it. But he was 500 plus yards away. I mean, that was a long track.
Oh yeah. With minimal blood.
Yeah, well, essentially no blood, because it rained. It was around 14 hours post-shot that we tracked.
It rained good.
Yeah.
It was heavy.
Heavy rain. And by the time we got halfway to him, he turned around and came back. I thought, okay, there was nothing down there. So I essentially forced him to go my own way, and you could tell he didn't care. He was just wandering around. He was playing. Well, when we started checking the creek walking out, he went back to that same spot, and I walked over there, and sure enough, there was the deer.
Yeah.
White hair pulled out of it where he'd been chewing on it earlier. He'd found it, been messing with it, and he'd gotten frustrated because nobody had come to tell him good job, and he'd come back to find us.
He's like, didn't you see it on the LSD, or what's the screen?
On the Garmin box.
Yeah, the Garmin box. Did you see it on the screen there, you dummies? I was here for a while.
Yeah, exactly. But
I think that's you don't need, you know, the top of the line technology, but it definitely helps out nowadays.
Oh, it's a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Huge benefit.
Especially knowing that if he does, you know, run away looking for that deer, you can eventually catch up with him.
Well, and that's a big thing too, is when you're coming through all that thick, nasty, gnarly cutovers and clear cuts and swamps, cattail marshes are the worst because I'm always tripping and falling in them.
Right.
Dog ain't slowing down.
No, and you don't want to slow him down. Right?
And that's what you and I were talking about earlier, is when you snatch that lead, you know, when are you pulling a leash on a dog? It's almost always as a form of correction.
Right.
Hey, you're doing wrong. So if you're constantly in thick mess, snatching that lead back, the dog thinks they're wrong, and they're constantly resetting, going a different direction. And it's playing with their head. And I have a tendency with that box, I know all I gotta do is hit a button and he's coming back. Right. He hears that beep beep, he's gonna come back to me. He knows it's not correction, it's just I need him back. And it's a great technology because I can see him a mile away.
Right.
I know his every step. I know if he's barking. I know if he's sitting down.
No, that's awesome right there. You give him the freedom that he needs to get the track down.
Exactly. It gives him that freedom to get it right without me holding him back. Now, obviously, 95% of the time I'm holding that leash, staying on top of him, which has saved his life at points. You know, walking up on snakes, walking up on live deer that came up wanting to fight him, being able to snatch him out of danger's way.
Right.
He's pretty aggressive with a live deer. He'll jump right in there. That's how he got the crap kicked out of him, and that was on lead. So
Was that when you had the attack command yet?
no, I haven't ever actually used that. That's just kind of my joke. I trained Uller, when people show up, I'll have him sit and I'll say attack and point, and he'll run whichever direction I'm pointing.
Scared the crap out of him.
Yeah, he scares people. I've used it on a squirrel once, and I did it as a joke. He caught the squirrel and killed it. So I haven't done that since. But either way, so jumping back over to Shadow's training, so we're kind of at that point now. Today's track was 85 yards, just a slight turn to it.
I didn't know it was 85 yards.
Yeah, 85 yards blind, no real aging at all, about 2 minutes. So kind of next steps, starting to stretch out to 100, 120, 150 yards, letting it sit 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, especially right now while it's cold, helping hold that scent some, take advantage of it. But start stretching out and challenging her. So end of March, I think last weekend of March, there's certification testing taking place down in Charlotte. And the plan as of now is for Eric to bring Shadow and do her United Blood Tracker level 1 certification.
Oh yeah.
Which is 450-ish yards. It'll have 2 right turns, a wound bed, and it'll be aged 2 hours. And then myself and Uller, and then Paul and his dog Milo that have also trained with some, we'll all be attempting our United Blood Tracker level 2 certification, which is, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of 900 yards, 800 or 900 yards, and it'll have 3 right turns and maybe 2 wound beds, and it'll be aged at least 6 hours.
So for people that don't know, and by people I mean me, what are they laying? Is it just blood, and what's at the end of the trail?
They'll be laying it, so there's 2 options that you can choose. In this case, sorry, I got a hamstring cramp.
Oh, you're right.
For those of you that can't see, I'm doing some weird things with my leg. My leg is cramping up really bad, so I'm all over the place trying to
rear back and kick
no,
me or something.
I'm just struggling right now.
Yeah, I can take over if you want.
No,
You alright?
Yeah, I'm alright. So, so essentially, the way they'll lay it is there's tracking shoes that hooves strap in the bottom.
That's right.
And then they'll use 3 ounces of blood.
So that makes sense as why you use those tracking shoes.
Yeah.
That's what they do for the certs.
Yep, and that's the, oh, good gracious, this leg cramp is terrible.
You're not going to play golf tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, we're supposed to play 9 holes tomorrow. I don't know. Goodness.
Holy. You're right.
Yeah. For those of you who can't see, I'm struggling right now. Good.
I heard if you punch it, it'll get itself worked out.
I'm gonna have to stand up. I gotta take a minute.
School of Hard Knocks.
All right, just for those of you who can't see, I'm pausing this right now because I gotta stretch.
They know what's going on.
Oh my goodness.
Does this ever happen?
Not like this. Oh.
Don't put too much weight on it, you might fall over.
Oh, good.
I was like wondering what you were doing over here.
This is the worst cramp I've ever had in my hamstring. It is locked up, dude.
That's what public speaking does to you.
Oh.
At least me. Yikes.
Every time I bend it, it just locks back up.
That's not good.
Oh, I'm gonna have to sit differently.
How old are you? 50?
Gotta be 27 going on 57. Goodness.
What did they send?
Oh,
Are you sure?
I think it's about to cramp back up. I'm gonna sit sideways so I can stretch this leg out.
Alright, I'll just talk to the back of your head.
Yeah, that'll work.
Alright, we're back.
we're back. Sorry about that, guys. I'm still struggling. I had to completely turn in my seat so I can keep his legs stretched out.
Yeah, I'm talking to the back of his head now.
Yeah, this is just poor. Either way, so the certification testing is based around the hooves. Crap. I forgot
Did you have
something.
the last one?
I don't think so.
That's alright.
We'll see how it turns out. Either way, man, now I'm just all thrown off my game.
Oh, you're good. That's what
This is hard.
cuts are for. You can edit this.
Hard luck podcasting.
That's right. We still gotta get through a story too.
Yeah.
Because that's what we promised them.
I think this is the story. We
Yeah.
can't even get to a podcast without me cramping up so bad.
And this
We
goes to
take
the
a
outdoors.
This has to. Either way, the certification, the most they'll use is 3 ounces of blood, and then the hooves, because if you're getting called to track someone's deer, 9 times out of 10 it's because they don't have blood to track. If there was a clean blood trail all the way to the deer, they don't need you. When deer are wounded, they put out a stress pheromone through their interdigital gland in their hooves, and that's what the dog is tracking. Either way, are you excited for the certification test?
Oh, I'm stoked.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
How long do we have? Till there? Try not to wind sweat, you tell me.
Till the end of March.
End of March.
We've got 2.5 months.
Alright, yeah, we can do that.
I'm confident that I could lay the track, I'm going to say 1st of March, and Shadow could run it.
Sweet. I like the sound of that.
I'm really confident. We're going to talk more about it as we get closer to. I know this has been a long podcast, clearly long on my body as well, since I'm just completely locked up. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Next episode, you want to do kind of some gear reviews from what we used during deer season?
Oh yeah. Bring out the broadheads, bring out everything you think? Or just, yeah. Okay.
I'd say at least hit our like bow and arrow setups and maybe our tethered setups.
Yeah, I like that.
If you want to touch on like binoculars, rangefinders, stuff like that.
You can get the binos. You've seen mine, haven't you? Yeah, I hunt the woods, so my binos are like juniors, you know, like
Oh,
that.
really?
You can go with the binos. I got the rangefinder.
Okay.
But I like the idea about the soundless because our setup is totally different.
Yeah.
Because I have 1 stick and you use 4 sticks, which that's a real. I got a lot of hard luck stories from 1 stick and propelling.
This should be good. So we're gonna jump into some gear reviews next episode. Appreciate y'all that have stuck with us all the way through this episode. Sorry for the just disaster class of me in the middle. I'll make sure to drink more water next time.
That's alright, that's what they came for. To see us suffer.
Yeah, exactly. So appreciate y'all. Hope you guys have a great week this upcoming week, and we'll be back next Sunday.
Oh yeah, see you then. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank y'all.